Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So a new poll dropped yesterday that has Representative Lee Zeldin from the state of New York winning the New York governorship over incumbent Democrat Kathy Hochul by 2 points. Again, this is one poll. This is an internal poll. But this is worth talking about given the fact that you have a Republican in the state of New York winning an internal poll with 800 likely voters sampled. We are going to dive into this and talk about it. Is Zeldin actually going to have a chance? It might be closer than people think, even if this poll is an outlier. And we are going to talk about why. But first, I have to tell you guys about our sponsors. First off, roughly 627K startups open each year, many of which need to be backed by investors, which is a perfect opportunity for you to grow your own personal wealth by supporting entrepreneurs. TV star Damon John and his angel network make being an investor quite easy. You can become an investor with as little as $50, learn the basics of investing, gain access to high-level investors and entrepreneurs. With this new program, it could change your life. So if you've been looking to get your feet wet with investing, you'll love working with Damon and his Entrepreneurs Network. Watch the free video on how you can invest in the next big startup by going to getangelrich.com or visiting the link down below. And if you want to invest in my channel, you can do so by going to redeaglepolitics.com. You can join up for $5 a month. That's a coffee a month, 16 cents a day. You get access to all of these exclusive videos and articles, as well as joining the Discord server that has over 150 members. So make sure you guys help out the channel by going to redeaglepolitics.com, link in the description below. But talking about New York, Lee Zeldin, who is the Republican frontrunner for the governorship, is leading Kathy Hochul in the early polling, which is very interesting because New York is a state that doesn't vote Republican anymore. I mean, it elected a Republican governor last in 2002 after 9/11. You had George Pataki, who was an electoral juggernaut in the state, kind of how Charlie Baker was in Massachusetts, except a little bit less of a rhino. But in New York in 2020, Donald Trump lost the state by 23 points. And Biden won with 61% of the vote. Now, at the same time, it is true that a lot of upstate New York actually moved left, and a lot of New York City, a lot of the Hispanic neighborhoods and Asian neighborhoods and some of the white working class areas as well, parts of Staten Island all moved significantly to the right, but at the same time, you saw some of the suburbs and you saw a lot of the upstate part of the state take a rapid turn left, which was a little bit unforeseen, especially given the fact that Hillary Clinton was from the state. Technically, there was no home state advantage. Trump had more of a home state advantage in 2020, but not in 2016. But nevertheless, the results were about the same. So a state that voted for Biden by 23, how can it elect a Republican governor? Well, first of all, the national environment is changing. You understand what we saw in New Jersey, where Republicans almost won. You understand what we saw in Virginia, where turnout is everything. Biden's not going to, all those 5.2 million voters are not going to turn out in the midterms. You might get out 3 million, and if all the Trump voters show out, well, technically it could be a flip. But it's a little bit less simple than that. Obviously, there's going to need to be a lot of crossover voting to take place to happen. But it's important to understand that Zeldin is not your staunch conservative. He has some solid votes. I mean, he voted to object. He's not exactly like a full-on rhino either. Like, he is relatively run-of-the-mill guy, and when he votes a certain way that'll get your attention, it might surprise you. Obviously, his voting record is not ideal. He doesn't necessarily have a voting record like somebody like Gosar or MTG. Obviously, we understand that. I wouldn't even say that his voting record is even like significantly above average or that it's like a Matt Rosendale or somebody like that. But he's all right. He's not, you know, the worst Republican. He's just your generic Republican. And if he gets in there and can like actually enact some like positive change in New York, maybe you could start to see the state improve a little bit, I guess. I don't know, but if you're looking at Zeldin, he's up in the polls. But Hochul is the governor that took over from Cuomo. You understand Cuomo was scandal-plagued and he resigned in disgrace. Approval rating was in the 20s in New York State. It was abysmal for him. And Cuomo's brother also resigned in disgrace. The Cuomo family, the Cuomo name, it's been disgraced. The fact that Hochul's even tied to Cuomo is going to be a problem, but keep in mind her own approval rating as governor isn't that high. And obviously, Morning Consult is an online poll. We understand that. It's not always the most accurate, but the fact is she has a 48% approval rating, which she's like the 5th most unpopular or least popular governor in the whole entire country right now, which does say something. And they've polled more than 5,000 registered voters, so it's very interesting. But her approval rating is not very high right now, to the point where she's a very divisive figure. She might lose her primary, but she'll probably hold on, I would say. More likely than not. She could lose it, but I think she'll hold on. And then you have this poll from McLaughlin, which again, people will say McLaughlin is a bad pollster because they got 2018 wrong, and they miserably got a primary in Virginia wrong with Eric Cantor in 2014, and a lot of people will laugh at them because of that. But they also have had their moments of glory. They were on point in 2020 in terms of the generic ballot for the House and the popular vote. They were off in terms of underestimating Republicans in some places like Ohio and Iowa, which prompted Trump to campaign a little bit more in those two states than he really should have, or he really needed to, and probably could have focused more resources on the big Rust Belt 3 in terms of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. But either way, they are a pollster that has a lot of abysmal errors, but pretty much all of them do. And this could be an outlier, but either way, at a very minimum, it is going to force Democrats to divert resources from other states and put them in a place like New York or Connecticut, or, I mean, obviously New Jersey already had theirs, but there's a lot of states that shouldn't be close that are going to be closer, and Democrats are going to have to play defense and put their time, money, energy in some of these states where you would not expect them to otherwise do. So that's important to note. And if New York is this close at the governorship, well, who's to say that Connecticut isn't that close, which was 3 points in 2018, which was a blue wave year. Polls have shown that Lamont's popularity has gone up since then, but by how much has it really? Do we really even trust those polls? And in a red wave national environment, Stefanowski in there again, could he beat Lamont this time? I think he possibly could, absolutely. So we understand this, but I guess the last question would be if we trust this poll, which again, like I said, probably is overestimating Zeldin, but it's possible, you never know, that it could be close or it could be closer. But how much would he really have to overperform? What would like the map look like if he actually does go out there and win, which is another question. And you look at New York City's mayoral election, Sliwa did fairly well in New York City. He got in the 60s in Staten Island, and he held Adams' margin to a margin that was not super high in a place like Queens. And potentially, if Adams wasn't like running as this fake moderate or this just like your average 90s Democrat, 90s neoliberal or whatever, he probably could have been able to win in Queens, which is really telling. And Adams was not unpopular. Sliwa was lesser known. He was more of a grassroots candidate and did fairly well, to the point where somebody like Zeldin, he might be able to do better in New York City. And also, he would likely do better in the suburbs. He represents a district in the suburbs. He represents, I believe, part of Long Island. So that's also important to note, because of the fact that you have to do well in Long Island to win the state of New York. And if you look at the state of New York here, we'll use the election shuffler. You're going to have to really increase your margins in the city of New York if you want a chance, because right now, what is it, D+23? All right, we'll actually select Westchester and all these, and let's actually move all of these right by, let's even say we'll move them all right by an average of 20 points from this. And obviously, Sliwa may have done something similar to that in terms of Queens, but maybe not in some of the other boroughs. But shifting all those right by 20, it's still, if you look at this, it's still D+15 Like, there's a lot of work to be done. You're going to have to really run it up in a place like Staten Island, for example. You're going to have to get that margin up to like R plus 27. Or you're talking about this county here in Suffolk, and he's from here. You're going to have to win this by a ridiculous margin. You're going to have to win Nassau. Not only you'll have to win it, but you'll have to like win it by 10. And if you look at that, that'll cut the margin down to 11, which means that in these counties up here, which I mean, Youngkin overperformed in a lot of the rural counties, but in the rest of the state's counties, you're going to have to see him overperform by a significant amount in order to go out there and win in the state of New York, which I mean, he'll have to really overperform in a place like Buffalo. Like, he'll have to win Buffalo outright, and that'll narrow the margin a little bit there. You know, and some of these other places like Albany, the margins will have to be cut. The eastern part of the state, some of the smaller metro areas like Syracuse and Utica, the margins are going to have to be cut down there. And some of the rural areas are going to have to vote very red. So it's a big uphill climb. Is it possible? Technically, yes, it is. But you're going to have to see something unforeseen in terms of a wave in the state, which could happen. And I think that either way, having it close does impact the down ballot races. Republicans could be picking off a few House seats in the process that they otherwise would not be able to. But I think this could very well get within 10. I will stand by that. But Zeldin winning outright, it's possible, but you're going to have more developments. And this poll is not going to be there's probably going to be other polls that will indicate this. But either way, he's up, which is really saying something. And the fact he's already at 46, it's not like he's up like 36 to 34, because obviously that would have a lot of undecideds. The fact that he's at 46 and there's 10% undecided shows that if this poll is remotely close to accurate, yes, this has a shot at being very close. And it is possible Zeldin could win, but we'll have to see. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Please like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, as well as join that website, redeaglepolitics.com, for all my exclusive content. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.